we can begin with like one of those typical... Oh, wait, no, a typical podcast begins with a funny thing.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of like, yatata, back and forth. 1, 2, sort of that thing that we're not allowed on this podcast.
Either that or some kind of sponsorship message.
Now I was thinking about this. Right, we're getting right into the meat of this now.
Okay.
We should do adverts.
For things that exist?
Yeah, right, if you like. I mean, just general sort of like sponsorship, get some sponsors on board.
So it's of the opinion that if you just say that you're sponsored by a thing, then they have to give you money?
Yep. Yeah, I think so. I think that is how it works. I've got a good ad read here from Water.
Water?
Sponsored by Water. That's a good one.
That's a big get.
I know. Like 7 billion users, I hear. I can endorse it.
Yeah.
I have trialed the product. I think it is pretty good. Little bit bland, but actually, I have to cut that. Refreshing, hydrating.
Yeah, I'm drinking water right now.
Well, exactly. I have some water near me because tea wasn't good enough. In fact, I think the tea is mostly water, so...
You could be sliding into some controversy there.
But there might be like a partnership. You know how like Apple has to pay Intel to not have the Intel logo on their laptops? They pay like $1 billion or something.
Yeah.
1 billion coins to not have to do that. Maybe tea has something like that with water so that tea doesn't have to contains water on it.
So you think that there might be some kind of golden age of Hollywood style monopoly laws around water?
Potentially. So, I think we should get on board. I would say get on board at the ground level, but as far as I'm aware, water has a fairly long history. Its marketing goes way, way back.
I think we may have slightly missed the ground floor.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. On water as well, which is double ironic, I think. Is that how that works?
That's just a kick in the teeth, really.
Right. That is a long bit to go at the beginning of it. But that is it. We can do the thing where it's like, welcome to Quality Irrelevant, broadcasting to you from an undetermined location, somewhere that may or may not be near Basingstoke. Is that what we agreed on? Basingstoke?
I think so.
We're going to go with that. You're recording from your sewer or whatever it was from last week.
It was my underground post-apocalyptic bunker that was essentially a Hilton hotel sunk into the ground through many, many sewage lines. And the room that I was in last week was the only room that wasn't full of raw sewage.
Has your situation changed?
There were some raiders. I did just about manage to escape them. I had to kind of, I would say swim, but it was more sort of tunneling through raw human sewage. And it was only after I'd actually got above ground that I realised that they were emissaries of the Children of Autumn, or Autumn Children, whatever we decided they were called last week.
Holy shit, they found you.
They found me really quickly. I'm regretting broadcasting my location so specifically last week. As it turns out, it's made it very easy for the Autumn Children to find me. But now... I don't want to give too much away because I don't really want them to find me again, but I'm now broadcasting from the top of a radio tower.
I'd never think of that.
I didn't really know where to go, but I just thought, well, I was underground last week, so I might as well just go as far above ground as I can get this week. I was doing an opposites thing.
Did you manage to get many of your personal effects out? In fact, did you have when you were tunneling through the shit, did you have like an implement of some kind, or was it just your bare meat hand? I
was using the arm bones of the hamster that was previously powering my post-apocalyptic bunker.
I'm worried about that hamster.
It did die, and immediately all of its skin fell off, and its bones were just sort of there as implements if I needed them. And as it turned out, I did need them. Stupidly, the only possession that I actually brought with me was one of the worn-out, overly used Glade plugins that I was using in the bunker.
I remember, yes. That donation campaign is still going on. Donate to Phil to keep him in air fresheners.
It's not as much of an issue now. I smell bad because I did tunnel through liquid shit with the arm bones of a hamster, but I'm not really in such need of the air fresheners now that I am in the fresh air on the top of a radio tower.
I'm worried about your cat. Did you leave your cat?
The less said about that, the better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I say your cat. I mean, it really should be your ex-cat, because I'm guessing that's not around much anymore.
I can neither confirm nor deny the deceased or non-deceased status of my cat. I mean, it is dead, but I feel like we might get some kind of activist group on our backs if I talk about my dead cat.
I suppose. Well, I mean, the hamster alone that you know, was it you pulled out its arm bones and tunneled through liquid shit?
The arm bones came after the hamster was dead, which I don't think is as bad. I did expose it to quite a hefty dose of radiation before it died, so they might get on me for that.
If your pet dies, are you allowed to eat it?
It's an interesting question. You've owned a lot of pets in your time. Have you ever thought about eating one?
Do farmers consider their cows pets?
I don't think so. I think that's purely a business relationship.
I'll scratch your back, you'll scratch mine kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll eat you.
There's a lot of sort of shady handshake deals between farmers and cows, I think.
Well, I've got a secure location this week. I am broadcasting you to you from the Basingstoke Observatory.
All right.
Again, high up.
Yeah.
Although I did actually take a little tip from you, and I've just put a sign on the door that says warning poo inside. It really stops people knocking on the door.
If there's one thing you can take away from my life, that is pretty much it.
That's kind of sad.
I'm okay with it.
I'm not even sure if Basingstoke has an observatory, but if they do, that is where I am.
I'm sure someone in Basingstoke owns a telescope. I'm pretty sure that's all that qualifies something as an observatory, is just that there is a telescope in there.
What's a planetarium?
It's like an aquarium, but it's got space in the tanks instead of water.
But how, like, how does, like, the solar system bit get in there?
Have you heard of the Hubble telescope?
Yes.
Well, what they do is sometimes, like once every 6 months or so, they put it on reverse and it squirts space out into like a smaller area, and they direct all of that into various planetaria across the world. And that's how they get space in the tanks.
What does space smell like?
Nobody really knows. People have tried to smell it, but I think it might be poisoned or something, because they all just, like, their heads pop and they just die.
If I put my head in one of the space tanks, would it pop?
I mean, that's a question for the scientists of the world to answer. As my experiments with the hamster revealed, I am no scientist.
All right, well, there's bound to be a few knocking around here. I can sort of, like, press gang some answers out of them, I guess.
Every scientist in the world loves it when large, hairy men attack them and shout, "What is a planetarium?" at them.
I wasn't going to attack, if you were sort of bowled over, is that an attack or more just a sort of embrace?
Sort of like tackled, but you remain with your arms around them in some sort of very aggressive hug.
No, it's kind of more of like a shoulder dragged to the ground, not pinned so much as just held down.
There's a very fine line. I couldn't say for definite whether that would be crossing it or not.
I think I might have done something wrong.
You might have assaulted a scientist.
Well, I mean, does that make it worse?
What, that it's a scientist or that it's assault?
Both.
Could have been worse. Also could have been better.
That might be the tagline for our show. Could have been worse. Right, now, on to business. Do you remember what I proposed last week in terms of the running of the show, the running order, as it were, the structure?
I remember that there was talk of some form of feedback section.
Yeah, well, fuck that. Scratch that. We're not doing that.
But I have many feedbacks to share.
And you'll get to. This section is now called Recriminations.
Recriminations.
Okay, so it's the same thing, just a rebranding, which is like a little bit more in tone with how I feel right now. So before I get all sort of like het up, do you want to blast through your feedback? I really could use a boost.
I can absolutely do that. I can say that the feedback this week is considerably more positive than...
Recriminations.
Sorry, the recriminations this week are considerably more positive than they were last week. There was a lot of language thrown around last week. People were called names. The word pisser was introduced into our vocabulary.
Yeah, I remember that one.
I've been in touch with some of our viewers, and we've had some much more positive and constructive recriminations this week. So would you like to hear the first one?
All right.
I didn't write any names down, so we don't have any names.
Yeah, fuck that. You're not getting your own fucking advert. You can pay us like the water people do or whatever, and then you get...
Did we get paid by the water people?
I mean, after the... What do you call it? Endorsement. After the ringing endorsement that we just gave them, I mean, they better cough up a few bucks.
Yeah.
Or coins. Or what currency do we use?
Doubloons.
Dublins.
Yeah, I know. Words are weird, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm going to look this up. Doubloons. Anyway, continue with the recriminations.
Okay, so the first one goes as follows. I can spend a whole day listening to episodes of this. It doesn't matter whether I know about what they're discussing or not. This podcast always brings something unique and compelling to the table. If iTunes allowed me to swear to tell you how good this was, I would. But in lieu of that, I will say it is perfect, brilliant, and ever improving. Essential. I mean, so that's some good recriminations right there, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel bad about calling it recriminations now. I mean, that is like a combative term, and that was actually quite positive.
Yeah, it was really positive, I thought. I mean, it's not for our podcast, it's for WTF with Mark Maron.
Well, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I was going to say, that's a good podcast.
Yeah, I feel like we sort of exist in the same realm as that podcast, in that this is also a podcast.
The Maronverse.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that's canonical.
Yeah.
I think we can get that. Who authenticates the canon of things? Is it Joss Whedon?
I thought it was Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Fuck. Okay, well, I'll write to Neil deGrasse Tyson. You write to Joss Whedon and ask him about the Maronverse and if we get to be part of it or not.
Okay.
Or are we in a verse in which we could listen to W2F with Mark... What the fuck was it? What was it?
WTF with Mark Maron.
That's the one. Are we in a universe where we could listen to it, but we don't interact with it in some way? Is that...
I'd say we probably are, just based on evidence that I have gathered.
I kind of want it in writing from Joss Whedon.
Okay, we'll write to Joss Whedon and Neil deGrasse Tyson and get their 2 cents on this whole thing, their 2 doubloons.
Thank you. And also, I don't really want to write 2 letters, so can we just write 1 letter and just say... Dear Joss Whedon and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
We're busy men, Theo. We don't have time to be writing 2 letters.
Yeah, besides, I think it would be nice if they get addressed as, like, together. I think they just kind of like that acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Because we live in a free society, Phil.
Also, I feel like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Joss Whedon live next door to each other.
They do look like the type that would go to the big game together.
Or have some kind of barbecue in the back garden.
They're not opposites, because that'd be racist, but they're not the same. They're just at different points in their life, but there's some commonality there. There's some shared experiences and life advice and wisdom. Sometimes there's conflict. Yeah, I'm sure. In fact, it would make a good sitcom. Could we exist in that sitcom?
I think anything's possible when we're talking about a sitcom involving Joss Whedon and Neil deGrasse Tyson being some form of odd couple.
Yeah, I think, God, would that be the Whedon-verse? The Whedon-deGrasse Tyson-verse? Oh, shit, I need to write this up. I need a mind map. Is that what they're still called? Mind maps?
You asked that question last week. I think yes.
I'm gonna... Oh, wait, okay. Where's the fucking podcast topic list? We're gonna have a whole thing on mind maps.
While you're just looking at that, do you want the second recrimination that I found?
How about, if we think the accusation being levelled at us is fair, we call it... something that is sustained, something that's a bit more fair, like evaluation. Evaluation's a good word.
Okay.
Or sentiments.
Recriminations and sentiments. I like that. So the second sentiment that we have received goes as follows. 5 stars. Superb. Essentially, this is a conversation between 2 guys and nothing more. The thing is, they cover many contemporary issues in a thought-provoking way. No special effects, explosions, sex, or packaged beauty. It's quite a treat, really.
Now that does sound like us this time.
I mean, it does sound like us, but it is an Amazon review of My Dinner with Andre by Louis Malle. I feel like we could take that as a review for this show.
If they've got a large sort of like stack and we've only got a few, I think they won't miss a few off the top.
Yeah.
Share the praise around. We could, and yeah, I think we can take that as read. We can just fill in the blanks. It's about the same. If our podcast had been around at the same time, no doubt those people would be saying the same things about us. We'd be giving a little bit of a shout out to My Dinner with Andreas or whatever.
If this podcast had existed in an earlier time, then perhaps Community would have done a parody episode about this podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not a reference.
It's not.
Because we exist in the Communityverse as well, so that's just a reality.
I feel like we could just say that we exist in all universes.
Oh, that's greedy. That's like a fucking Marvel or DC move. That's like one of those crises events.
That's how greedy My Dinner with Andre is about reviews.
Anyway, have you got any more sentiments?
There's just one more sentiment. It's a little bit of a long one, but it seems like an important one to read out. So here we go. Before this, I was lost. All was darkness, despair, and dread. I couldn't get out of bed in the morning, and my only thoughts were of the endless abyss that was all my life consisted of. Then, Quality Irrelevant came along, a light in the pitch-black eternity that was my own paltry existence. It serves as the centre of my universe, ever enlightening and uplifting me so my days are no longer grim and hateful in their countenance. I wouldn't be exaggerating when I say that Quality Irrelevant is not only the greatest podcast that has ever existed, it is the greatest piece of art and media that divine providence has brought to the shameful sphere spinning through nothingness that is our world. It is, in a word, perfection. But Theo is a pisser and I hope his hair falls out.
Well,
so, I mean, you take the good with the bad.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll take that on the chin. I'll take that for the team. I mean, there goes my smile.
I'm sorry,
I span right around.
I feel bad that I ended with that one. I could have ended with the Mark Maron one and you would have felt a bit better about yourself.
The confidence would still be there, but it's nice that there's something positive that some people can say about this. I feel like you're trying to be nice.
Why would you ever feel like that?
That's a good point. Anyway.
That was all the sentiments that I received from our millions of viewers this week.
For all those views we get, not many of them write in.
Well, I feel like last week was it was the difficult second podcast.
Oh, yes.
The first one we went into it with all the energy and verve in the world. It maybe we were just trying to find our groove last week. I think this week we have already plateaued.
That is fair.
Yeah.
I will cop to that. But despite the plateauing effect, I still need to find out what a fallow field is. Anyway, feedback on my end, sorry, not feedback, recriminations.
Are these recriminations or sentiments?
These are recriminations.
Oh,
I don't find the sentiments. I don't know where they are. Clearly, they're left on other people's shows about us. I don't know why they're doing that, but whatever.
I know, it's weird that people do that, isn't it?
Yeah, in fact, now that I'm thinking about this, maybe these are left for other shows, and that would explain it. Maybe this is about my brother and me, although that's not a reference.
The way to tell is, do they get incredibly personally insulting about either of us?
Well, I've edited some of them.
Right.
Some of them were very nasty.
Very nasty. Is that a step up from last week? Last week they were just a bit sort of mischievous, but also with a bit of an edge. Are they actually just nasty this week?
Well, I would say the trend continues to be overwhelmingly upsetting.
At the very least, we are consistent.
We're nothing if not consistent.
Yeah.
I will stand by that.
I'll stand sort of near you on that.
So, the first one here, who will miss you when you die, is what they say.
I mean...
Hurtful.
It's a question I've often asked myself to no answer.
Well, yeah, there's not a lot I can say to that. When you say they had a bit of an edge,
yeah,
I mean, that's like a full-on serrated combat knife to the midriff.
I'm sort of losing the will to do this podcast if people are just going to be hateful.
Let's move on. One here, I'm going to come to your house and dig your garden. I'm pretty sure that's a threat.
It seems like a threat.
Yeah, I've got images in my mind of trowels, gardening forks.
Yeah.
Hose water.
To be fair, my garden is pretty much all right.
Well,
I don't really need it digging.
Yeah, it's a little obscure. This one, right cheeky bastard, right. My favourite bit of the podcast is when it ends. Do you know my favourite bit of the podcast?
What's your favourite bit of the podcast?
The silence. We can do with a lot more of that round here. That's going down gangbusters. They seem to love the silence. I think we need more of it. In fact, I'm thinking of putting a section in called Silence. See how they like that? Don't write in saying you like that. Please don't. That was sarcasm, in case you didn't get that.
Do you know what my favourite bit of the podcast is?
What?
It's when whoever wrote that recrimination dies.
I'm not sure if you're allowed to say that on podcasts. It's like, you know how Mormons, right, they've got a code of conduct. They're not allowed to sort of outright insult you and call you a dick. They've got to sort of do it in a certain way.
They've got to do it in one of those clever ways.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if we'll be accepted into the Podcasters Guild if we threaten our audience quite like that. And to be fair, in many ways, we are like Mormons.
Do you want to elaborate on that at all, or should we just leave it hanging?
We're giving the good news.
Right.
Hello, sir. Have you heard the good news? That's kind of what we do. We're laying out wisdom, life advice, philosophy, theology.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Have you heard the good news? What the fuck is autumn?
Exactly.
Nothing screams Mormon to me more than that.
Yeah, and we're not like the Mormons that kick in your door. We're more like the Mormons who you find downstairs at the breakfast table seducing your grandmother. How did these people get here? What are they doing?
For me, the most confusing part of that would be, why are they Mormons? Not why are there people in my house seducing my grandma? One, my grandma doesn't live with me. Two, if people want to seduce my grandma, then that's fine. But if they're Mormons, that's just the confusing cherry on top of the baffling sundae.
They said they were Mormons.
Did this happen to you?
What? No.
Are you sure?
They said they were Mormons, and that is like a legal contract. That's what they said.
Right.
And they flashed like a wallet or something. I saw an ID of some, or maybe a badge, something shiny with jingly jangling, and that distracted me for a moment. And
was it perhaps some sort of book?
They did have a book.
But it was The Game, A Guide to Picking Up Women, brackets, and grannies.
Subtitle, Say You're Mormons.
Yeah.
There's nothing weird about that. Anyway, if people are having problems with this, if they don't understand what's going on here, let me lay it out.
Lay it out.
We're not just like other podcasts, right, where it's just two wacky guys who are a bit like you, but a bit funnier. We're not just two dudes who don't know anything, but let's talk about it anyway. If you want something to chisel into the headstone of this podcast or whatever, here's a definition. The whole purpose of this podcast is to serve as entertainment for me, and me alone. Not even you, Phil. Just me.
No, I would never have said that this was entertainment for me. I was almost jumped into this podcast in the way of like...
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for saying that, for coming in with strong support there. Similar to the situation with the research scientist that has still gone unresolved.
I mean, I sympathise with the research scientist in that I feel like I've been pressured into doing this.
Well, I mean, do you have any physical restraints on you? It's not like I'm calling up the children of the autumn to hunt you down to force you into situations where you have to talk to me once a week.
Physical restraints. I have a harness and a sort of a carabiner type mechanism that is attaching me to the radio mast that I'm currently on the top of, and there doesn't seem to be any obvious way down.
Carabiner is a brilliant word. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, I enjoyed saying it. I enjoyed when it came into my brain halfway through that sentence.
Carabiner, that's good. It reminds me of Ribena and the Caribbean.
As well as endorsing water, have we just invented a new children's soft drink?
Now this leads us neatly into schemes. Right, soft children drink.
Is that a drink for soft children?
Could be one. Yep, right, that's one thing.
Like warm milk, I feel, is something that soft children drink.
Yeah, warm milk with no whiskey in it.
No.
There's no whiskey for you kids because you're soft.
Get out of my liquor cabinet, you soft kid.
I have a feeling, though, we might have problems advertising milk, because, again, the market on that is cornered. I mean, I saw an advert the other day that just said milk on it.
Yeah, I've never understood why there are adverts for milk.
And it's not like a brand of milk.
No.
It's just the concept and physical manifestation of milk in all its forms.
Aside from all your like dietary restrictions these days with your almond milks and your soy milks and things, I feel like everybody in the world is in a constant state of needing milk.
Can we do that? Can we just advertise something in the abstract, like pizza? All pizza.
Like hair.
Yeah, hair. And where's our check for saying hair?
Where's our billboard ad that just says hair?
I know, right? I mean, okay, I don't want to discriminate against the emboldened, but...
I'm sorry, I did sort of pick a market that does sort of exclude certain groups of people.
Yeah, you fascist.
Although, I mean, milk does that with lactose intolerant.
Oh, yeah. Can we do that? Can we advertise lactose intolerance? Can that be a thing? Like, everyone with it has to pay us money because we did them lip service.
I think so. I feel like that is an airtight business plan.
Okay, well, we'll run that by legal.
Yeah.
I'll just make a note of that. That's on the minutes for the meeting.
Okay, I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so we got drinking soft children. That is one of our schemes. I think we'll get plenty of money for that. I want to see a good return on that.
Yeah.
What else did children drink?
Can we corner the market on not alcohol?
I was thinking this, rather than think about what do children drink, think about what they don't drink.
Could we patent some kind of alcohol for children?
Ale. They don't drink ale that I'm aware of.
They don't drink ale.
Right, ale.
Ale for children.
Now that is an idea, right? I've written ale down and I've put a box around it. I'm pretty sure if I walked into a marketing firm right now and slapped that down on the conference table, they'd give me a check, right?
I believe that's how it works, yeah.
Right, it's gonna be ale that is teddy bear flavoured and it's got little toy trains in it. Little toy trains. And there's a Power Ranger on that big label thing they put on the draft pump.
Can it be like those old cups you used to get from Pizza Hut where you have like a lid on it and it's got some kind of toy on the top of it, but it is full of ale?
Yeah, like child-friendly ale, like ale that's been pre-drunk, so the alcohol's been taken out of it.
I feel like we might have a hard time advertising some kind of alcohol that has already gone through someone's system, because I feel like that's just urine.
Well, I mean, that's similar to what we're doing here. We're taking in creativity from the world, distilling it in the brewery of our minds, and then spurting it out liberally in jets and arcs into the ears of our viewers.
Well, I've just thought of another potential issue that we might have with sort of repackaging beer urine and selling it.
Is that the market's already cornered on that?
It's pretty much cornered by your Carling and your Fosters.
I'm gonna send emails to all of these expecting a check, because there was a lot of product placement you just did. You mentioned 2 beers.
I did.
And I just said that they were beers, so that's information about the product. I'm going to write this all out. Right, invoice.
And you've also now just advertised beer.
The concept of beer. Exactly right. We own that. I'm going to put in a patent for beer.
Yeah, beer TM.
Or is it a copyright?
I feel like it's a trademark.
I feel like it's all 3. I'll apply for all 3, get those all done, just to cover our bases.
Okay.
I have another scheme. Are you up for another scheme?
Hang on, I'll just get into scheme position.
Yeah, assume the position.
Oh, that's uncomfortable, but okay, I have to be in this position to hear about schemes.
Is the harness chafing around the thighs?
I feel like it would be indelicate of me to answer that question.
Okay, well, it's good that you're moving so birds don't nest in any sensitive areas.
I mean, you're saying that like they haven't already. Get off me, birds.
I wonder if there's like a first defense for birds. Anyway, it doesn't matter. That's gonna in the next meeting, I think.
That's next week's scheme. First defense. I'm going to write that down. First defense for birds.
Yeah, because I mean, it's too late for you, but we can help others.
I mean, we can use my situation to learn and grow
As a baseline, yeah.
and ultimately assist others who have been nested on by birds while on the top of a radio mast.
What about stones? Because apparently they can kill 2 birds for the price of 1. So you get 2 for the price of 1. Can we market stones?
I think we just did.
Anyway, oh god, this is,
I'm going to write stones down as
This
well.
is a powerhouse of ideas. How can this be contained within one podcast? I don't understand. I mean, this is what I really don't get. How can people not fucking love this? This is everything. We've just given them so many ideas. Look at what I've got written down here. Carabiner, children's drink, Power Rangers, information, beer, stones.
Ale, first defense for birds, beer, TMCR.
Anyway, I think it's pretty clear from the recriminations, not so much from the sentiments, but from the recriminations, people don't like what we're doing.
It's a hard truth to learn that people despise your creative venture.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a kick in the balls whilst you're asleep.
I couldn't have put that any better myself.
Exactly. So I think that we should bend over in the face of adversity. And by that, I mean cave completely.
Okay.
So instead of our nonsensical shtick, I think we should rebrand.
Okay.
So Quality Irrelevant is dead. Okay, the podcast is now called The Film Review.
The Film Review.
Yeah, Film Review Podcast.
Okay.
That's what they all want, right? It's what everyone does. You just do a film review podcast. We'll just do the Film Review Podcast. Well, we can do that, but more. So, first film review of the new Film Review Podcast. Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I don't know if you know about that one yet.
It's quite a small indie film, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was at the movie theatre recently watching the film. And I don't know if you know this, Phil, or not, but sometimes they do this thing called trailers, and it's where they show bits of some films before another longer film.
I've heard of the concept, and I've got to say I'm not a fan.
It blew my fucking mind. And I saw one of these trailers for, let's see if I get this right, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Episode 7? Imagine that.
I mean, I thought it was a bit far-fetched. I mean, a robot that can survive in a desert without getting sand all up in its stuff. I mean, get out of town. What have you been smoking, J.J. Abrams?
I think you'll find that it is pronounced Jabrams.
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 Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Jabrams. Anyway, I saw the trailer and thought, logistics aside, that looks quite good. So I'll go watch that the next time I'm at the movie theatre. Phil. After seeing the film, here is my review of watching Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I'm just going to have a swig of water.
I think it's important that you do.
La 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 la. There we go. Got the old vocal cords. I'm going to have to really remember to cut that. Fucking hell. Right. 30 years after the defeat of Darth Vader and the Empire, Rey, a scavenger from the planet Jakku, finds a droid that knows the whereabouts of the long-lost Luke Skywalker. Rey, as well as a rogue stormtrooper and a pair of smugglers, are thrown into the middle of a battle between the Resistance and the daunting legions of the First Order. Despite holding the name Rey, the character of Rey is actually female. According to Wikipedia, Rey is a name that can be given to either a boy or a girl. This is known as a unisex name, and it is a common practice in many countries around the world. There is nothing wrong with having a unisex name. In fact, unisex names have enjoyed a reasonable amount of popularity in English-speaking nations over the past few decades. If you happen to have a name that could be used for either a boy or a girl, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. If people at school make fun of you for having a name that is gender neutral or has ambiguous gender connotations, they are fucking arseholes. Don't listen to them. Just because your name makes them uncomfortable doesn't mean you have to develop a complex about it. Lots of people, both men and women, are called Theo. There is nothing wrong with that. Do you know that Vincent van Gogh had a brother called Theo who also just happened to be a man? Any of you out there who have a problem with that can go fuck yourselves. Rey, a character in Star Wars, got to be in Star Wars for God's sake, one of the most successful film franchises of all time, and she wields the power of the Force and swings a goddamn lightsaber around. You wouldn't make fun of Rey if she was bearing down on you with a blade of pure energy and the fires of vengeance burning in her eyes. Who cares she's named after a bloke? I don't fucking care. To all of you out there who make fun of people's names, fuck you. I will find you and bury you in my garden. Alright, so that is my film review of Star Wars. That took less time than I thought. 8 stars out of 5.
Sorry, did you say something? I drifted off.
Right, we will do that every week. Every week there's going to be a film review.
I do one next week.
Next week is Phil's film review, because that's what the parasites want. Make it a good and actually don't fucking bother, because everyone else is reviewing films, so we're just going to jump on the bandwagon and do what everyone else says. Star Wars. Where's my check for saying Star Wars?
And even a goddamn middle-of-the-road, pointless, non-insightful film review somehow makes more popular podcast than two men talking bollocks out of their anuses. That is just why the world is not a fair place.
Exactly, and there's nothing wrong with me.
There's a few things wrong with you.
No, I am a goddamn hero.
Theo, people hate your hair.
I know.
And you seem to have a real complex about that.
I liked the film.
I feel like you didn't really pay attention to the film. I mean, from what I heard, it seemed like you cottoned on to the fact that one of the main characters had a unisex name and got very angry about it.
I was watching the film in the cinema, and then the haze came down, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the film just sort of like came through the mist. I was in that film theatre, for a day and a half. I think I watched the film, okay? I think I took it in.
I think you're in there too long. I don't...
Recommended film by Theo. Go see it at your local movie theatre. It's called Star Wars. Say that once more, Star Wars. What did I give it? 6 stars out of 3 or whatever.
I thought it was 8 stars out of 5.
8 out of 5. 8 out of 5. Can you beat that? No. That is an endorsement from Phil and Theo for Star Wars.
I hope we get money for saying Star Wars so many times.
Star Wars.
I've heard it's big business.
It's a film and a game. Apparently they're made of Lego. Have you seen this? Lego.
I've heard they're made of Monopoly, except Rey.
Can we market no, that's probably already taken in it.
Probably. I feel like we might have a hard time registering things that are already registered trademarks. I mean, I'm no expert. I'm no lawyer. I'm no accountant. I'm no businessman. I'm not even a businesswoman.
I'm no cashier.
I'm no president of the World Bank.
I'm no treasurer.
I'm no emperor.
I'm no commodore.
I'm no admin clerk. I've completely lost sight of what we're doing.
We can end schemes there, I think. Jesus Christ.
What the fuck just happened?
Moving on to the main meat of the podcast. What we're really here to talk about. The final, but most important section, quandaries. Can you remember what the topic of the quandaries was this time?
I believe from reading it is scared.
Right. Phil.
Yes.
I'm scared.
What are you scared of? Or are you just scared in general?
Yeah, scared. Scared all over. I don't like it.
Okay. Is that end of podcast?
No. What makes you scared?
I tell you what makes me scared. people with a lack of spatial awareness, because I feel like one day they're just going to push me off the curb and I'm going to get run over.
Is that like they'll do it maliciously, like, aha, you die now, and they give you a shove? Or is it a sort of like they'll just walk into so like bump and then suddenly?
Yeah, it's just sort of in the way that like humanity is sort of turning into the big fat people from the end of WALL-E, which isn't a reference because we exist in the Pixar verse.
So that's fine.
And they're just sort of glued to their devices and not really paying attention to the outside world. And when I try to get past them and cough loudly to make them realise that I am there, and then they will just stumble like drunkards into me and they will push me into the front of a bin lorry and I will be obliterated. There will be nothing left for my loved ones to look at. There will be a shoe and some stuff that looks like jam.
That is pretty harrowing. This is why I always whip around and flail my arms about. So I'll catch one of them, they're nearby. So whenever you just do a slight turn of the head, don't do a full rotation of the upper body.
I mean, I am trying different things to sort of protect myself from that fate, like carrying around some form of medieval halberd and just swinging it wildly as I walk down the street.
What about 2 steel knitting needles? And you just like pull them out and like hold them up, you know, with your fists and go, ha! Ha! Like if anyone comes near you, just whip and go, ha! And like hiss at them like a prey mantis or something like that. If anyone comes near you, just and then you just sort of like swing them like at them.
See, I feel like there are some. I mean, again, I'm no lawyer. I'm no street sweeper.
I'm no chess master.
I'm no bank teller.
I'm no lollipop woman.
You're no lollipop woman. I've always said that about you.
I'm no doctor.
Yeah. I mean, this could... I'm no rabbit farmer, but we could be heading down a rabbit hole. No, I was going to say I'm no lawyer, but I feel like there might be some kind of legal ramifications to sort of brandishing steel knitting needles at passers-by. Whereas I think swinging a halberd round wildly is perfectly legal. There's bound to be some sort of arcane medieval law still knocking about that...
about knitting needles?
No, that allows halberd swinging.
Oh, yes. Okay, so you want to err on the side of tradition.
Yeah.
Of old values, what this country used to be about.
Yeah.
You know, where you could brandish weapons. I think at one point it was the law that you had to be armed. If you were a man, you had to be armed at all times. And then I think there was another law at a different time that said men weren't allowed swords. So that really fucked with the serfdom. I mean, arm yourself, don't arm yourself, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So there's bound to be something about halberds or something you can dredge up from somewhere.
At least the second law had some kind of specificity to it, that it was specifically swords you weren't allowed to have. At least they didn't say no weapons at all. That would have been a quandary and a half.
Well, it would have been alright because I could have just claimed that my knitting needles, I'm just doing my knitting. What's that? I'm not brandishing these and hissing.
I'm just doing my knitting and all the wool is in this man's brain.
I think that... Right, well, that fits in with the scary theme of this week, or scared theme. Is there anything else that scares you? What makes you scared? What about cats with human fingers?
That's... As in, is that something that I'm scared of?
That scares the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
What about snakes with human fingers?
Where on the snake do the fingers appear?
Exactly.
If they have some sort of stegosaurus-like spine made of human fingers going all the way down their back, that's terrifying.
What about if they just had fingers protruding at just odd angles, random bits just around the sternum? They were just like...
Sort of like a finger porcupine.
Yeah, and they're just sort of rolling around the place like sideways and whipping around and like curling up into a ball and then splaying out and then going... That'd be fucking awful.
What you're asking me is, would I be scared if snakes were sort of no longer snakes, but more like a ball of fingers?
I guess that is what I'm asking. But right. Anything else that scares you? Or do you want me to go into my list of things that scare me?
Oh, have we not started going into that with the cat with... Why was it all about animals with human fingers?
Those were the only two.
Okay.
I'm not scared of a hippo with human fingers. I mean, I'm scared of the hippo.
Are you scared of the aforementioned giant ball of fingers?
Damn right. And if a hippo was, say, munching on human fingers when I encountered it, I mean, yeah, I suppose that would increase my fear.
That's sort of a contextual fear of, like, you have to put some information together there. You go, why are the fingers in the hippo's mouth? Where is the rest of the hand at the very least? And at most, where is the rest of the person? Is it in the hippo or is it elsewhere? Has the hippo simply bitten the fingers off, or are the fingers just the final thing to be digested from the human?
Whereas I suppose if you just see a wibbly wobbly ball of fingers rolling about the place making a weird noise, that in and of itself is terrifying. And it's sort of a David Cronenberg-esque style, weird, creepy, like, why are there fingers?
And if it's David Cronenberg, then there is no reason for why there are fingers.
He's a disappointing filmmaker in that regard. 2 stars out of 8.
2 out of 8. Your rating system is confusing.
Blame the other podcast. It's not my fault. Anyway, dying from holding your piss in too long. What? That's terrifying. Scared the life out of me when I thought about that.
I think I was laughing because there was so much truth in that I have definitely experienced that concern recently.
And specifically, have you thought about taking the hit? As in dying? As in, like, it might be worth to end my life here, because there is no way I'm just going to let her rip in a situation where it's not excusable to go and take a piss.
I've been in similar situations before in my life, and I have not taken the hit.
Because you're still with us.
I made the choice in those situations to... There's no delicate way of putting this. I chose to piss myself instead of dying from piss.
I don't think many people should judge you for that. Something that I wouldn't hold against my worst enemy.
On the majority of those occasions, I have at least managed to extract the penis from the trousers before it happened. You know, I was never on the tube, did it.
I was going to give you some extra points if you managed to get it down your leg and piss in your boot and fill your boot, but not spill any over the brim.
Or not get any on the trousers, just have completely dry trousers, but a boot full of piss.
No milk.
That's one of your fears, is no milk. Is that you have no milk in the fridge, or there is just no milk?
God, I didn't even think of the second one, but that is horrific. What am I going to drink?
Yeah, the concept of no milk, which isn't an advert.
Yet.
We're not putting an advert out for no milk.
Could we market no... Hey, oh God, I can't get into this again.
Yeah, we'll save that for the next meeting.
But no milk. What are you going to have in your coffee?
You've told me a story about what you did once when you didn't have any milk for your coffee. It almost made me sick.
Turns out soya yogurt does not go nicely in coffee. It sort of congeals fairly quickly.
See, most people would have been able to figure that out from sort of a train of logic.
It's really enzymy.
You, on the other hand, thought, well, yogurt has milk in it somewhere.
Except this one didn't.
Except not soya yogurt that has beans in it. You know.
Yeah, you're right there. Lena Headey.
Lena Headey is something that makes you scared.
Yeah, and that's not a reference because religious figures are exempt from that rule.
Is Lena Headey a religious figure?
Yeah.
Who worships her?
I think I heard someone in the street in a robe proclaiming something about her. I don't know, had like a board of some kind. And you know that thing that monks have where they shave the top of their head, and they just have a ring of hair. He had the opposite of that.
He shaved all the sides of his hair and had it really long on top.
Yeah.
Isn't that what the kids are knowing as the fashion these days?
It could have been. It could have been. He was wearing high-top sneakers.
Well, what a world we live in.
But anyway, she scares me. Are you not scared of her? In a sort of, reverent way?
I don't want to say that I'm scared of her. She haunts my nightmares. That's as far as I'll go.
Is that like a sort of, she just appears in them, or she is the object of your fear within those nightmares?
A little of column A, little of column B.
Heavy-set British men shouting, "Get those milky thighs out for the lads."
Does that happen to you often?
No, but it would be terrifying. Next on the list is If They Find Us.
Is that in reference to the Autumn Children, or just they?
I mean, it's mostly in reference to our viewers and the public, or anyone that isn't... Okay, how about this? Anyone who isn't part of this podcast.
You're afraid of anyone outside of the two of us finding you.
Yeah.
It's fair enough. I mean, there's all sorts out there.
Judge Dredd. Well, I mean, the clue is in the name for that one.
Is that the terrible film starring Sylvester Stallone?
Ugh. No. And that's not a reference, by the way, because we're in the Dredd verse.
We were created in 2000 AD.
Yeah, damn right. Well, what's the place in that? Mega City 1?
That's it.
Right, well, we're in Mega City 2.
Yeah.
So Judge Dredd can't find us.
Fuck you, Judge Dredd.
Yeah. I mean, if he kicked open your door, I'd piss.
It's a fair reaction, really, to just piss.
Neighbours knocking on your door wanting a cup of sugar.
Can I ask something about that whole situation?
Yeah.
Who measures sugar in cups?
Americans.
Do we allow them listening to the podcast?
I mean, I don't think they're very popular these days.
No.
So they could use a little bit of a boost, I think. Americans are welcome.
Okay, and I take back my comment about people measuring sugar in cups being morons.
Yeah, I mean, I have a cup of sugar every morning.
I don't think that's healthy.
I was led to believe that was the American lifestyle. It's quite continental, as it were.
As far as I'm aware, your daily recommended allowance of sugar is not a cup.
Ah, okay. Is it more than that? Is it 2 cups? Anyway, if someone comes knocking on your door asking for a cup of sugar, that's really fucking weird, so they're up to something. So reach into your pocket and get your pocket sand and then say, "Here's some," and throw it in their eyes.
I mean, I would be immediately suspicious if any of my neighbours came knocking on my door asking for a cup of sugar.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. I don't know what their intentions are, but clearly something's up if that's the best cover story that they can think up.
It's a horrible world that we live in nowadays, that you have to be suspicious when your neighbour comes round and asks to borrow a cup of sugar. Borrow is a bad word anyway, because are they going to give it back at some point? I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute. I hope that's all right.
Yeah, okay.
I believe that we need to get back to a world where a neighbour can simply ask for a cup of sugar without coming into your house and stealing your identity.
I have to admit, I am not fond of identity theft.
It's a bit of a pain.
Especially when your neighbours do it. Yeah, I don't like that. You can hear them, like, downstairs, calling all your friends, pretending to be you, going, "Oh, I'm Theo, I'm a big idiot, I have stupid hair, ha ha ha. I shout when I'm pretending to do a podcast." It's hurtful.
I've been woken up in the middle of the night by so many of those calls.
Well, some of them are me. I don't think I have any more fears.
No more fears.
I think that is the end of it. Oh, no, sorry, scared. That's what it is. Lists of things that make me scared. Because fears is slightly different.
Yeah.
So I guess that is the end. That is the end of this week. The week is over. And so is the podcast.
Yeah.
Now, fuck.
I feel like that should just be the end.
I think that is it. Oh, God, I'm going to have to edit this.
I was going to say partway through that this one is going to be a fucking nightmare to edit.
It really is.
There are so many points where there's just weird dead air or
I like
one
the
of
dead
us
air.
absolutely pissing ourselves laughing.
Yeah, I think we can just cut it off somewhere else.